The funeral parlor was filled with the scent of artificial roses and fading respect. As they lowered my father's coffin into the chilly earth, I was overwhelmed by the deep emptiness that comes with feeling completely alone in the world. Then I heard it, a voice cutting through me like a sharp winter breeze after 2 decades of silence. Casey, just one word. My name spoken by her after 20 years of absence. I turned slowly, my black gown moving with the cemetery wind, and there she was. Stephanie Holloway, the woman who gave birth to me and vanished without a trace when I was 7 years old. She was not by herself. Standing behind her was a balding man wearing a cheap suit and 3 children whose eyes brimmed with curiosity. This was the family she replaced me with, the family she decided on instead of me. My name is Casey Morgan, and this is the tale of deserted daughters, inherited fortunes, and the sudden return of a mother who only remembered she had a child when that child possessed something she desired. The heart attack took my father without any warning. Harold Morgan, a prosperous contractor, a devoted dad, and the sole parent who ever truly showed up for me, collapsed in his office while going through plans for a new housing project. At the age of 52, he was gone instantly. The paramedic said it happened fast, and that he did not suffer, as if that was meant to console me. Standing in that cold hospital hallway, staring at the doctor's pitying expression, comfort was the last thing I found. Only a hollow void, and the dreadful reality remained. The reality of facing a world without the one person who had never let me down hit me hard. I did what I always do when life throws a tough challenge my way. I took charge. I arranged the funeral details, chose flowers that truly reflected Dad's spirit, and coordinated with Pastor Collins from the church Dad supported generously, but attended only occasionally. Money was never a problem. Dad's construction company had grown from a modest venture into one of the most esteemed firms in the city. I had the means to pay the proper tribute. The ceremony was beautiful in that sad, poignant way funerals sometimes become. The church was filled beyond capacity with people whose lives Dad had touched, including business associates who applauded his honesty, friends from golf who recalled his awful jokes, and construction workers whose families he had supported during hard times. They all recounted stories I had heard countless times before, creating an image of a man who gave much more than he received, who built things meant to endure. Standing there in my black dress, accepting sympathy, and trying to stay composed, Pastor Collins spoke about Dad's generosity and deep love for family. Harold's greatest accomplishment, he said, was not the houses he constructed or the empire he built. It was raising his daughter to embody strength and integrity. At that moment, my composure broke, not because of what he said, but because of what he left unsaid. There was no reference to my mother, because there was nothing to mention. For 2 decades, it had just been my father and me against the whole world. Since Grandma passed away 2 years ago, he was practically the only family I had left. Then came that moment beside the grave. That voice, that name, Casey. I looked at her, a stranger who shared my blood. She had aged significantly. Her hair was shorter and darker, likely hiding the gray strands. She had put on some weight, and the lines around her eyes were new, definitely not there when I was 7. Yet it was unmistakably her, Stephanie Holloway, the woman who had abandoned me. "Why are you here?" The words escaped my lips colder than ice. She said she heard about Harold through some relatives. The man next to her, tall, balding, wearing a cheap suit, rested his hand on her shoulder as if offering comfort through grief. This had to be him, the co-worker she was having an affair with, the man she chose over her husband and child. Behind them stood 3 children, uneasy, probably wondering why their mother brought them to a stranger's funeral. "I can't believe you didn't invite me," she continued. I actually laughed out loud. Right here at my father's grave. Invite you to the funeral of the man you abandoned? The man whose daughter you left alone for 2 days when she was 7. The memories hit me with painful clarity. I was 7 when it happened. Dad had gone on a business trip upstate to check out land for a possible development. He was meant to be gone for 2 days. At most, 3. Mom waited exactly 30 minutes after his car left the driveway. Then she began packing. I remember trailing her around the house, confused and frightened. "Where are you going, Mommy?" I asked. She replied without meeting my eyes, "Mommy needs to be away for a while," as she hurriedly stuffed clothes into 2 suitcases. "You stay here. Daddy will be back soon." But she did not wait for Daddy. She left a note. I never saw what was written on it. She placed it on the kitchen table and walked out the door. From the living room window, I watched her load her suitcases into the car and drive away without a glance back. For 2 days, I was alone in that house. 2 days. I ate cereal at every meal because I could not prepare anything else. I watched cartoons and waited for someone, anyone, to return. I kept hoping Mom would realize she had left something behind and come back. But she never did. When Dad finally came home and found me sitting on the couch wearing the same clothes I had on for 2 days, the expression on his face as he read that note was heartbreakingly unfamiliar. He crushed the paper and tossed it in the trash. "Your mother is finished," he muttered, more to himself than to me. Everything happened quickly after that. Dad contacted his lawyer, and the divorce papers were filed. Mom was supposed to attend the custody hearing, but she never appeared. The judge granted Dad full custody and ended her parental rights. Just like that, she was legally removed from our lives. My father told me later that my mother had been plotting her escape for several months, secretly working with her lover and waiting for the perfect chance when my dad would be away and I would be defenseless. That moment finally arrived, and she seized it without a single thought about the 7-year-old daughter she was leaving behind. Now, 2 decades later, she stood by my father's grave with her new family. "Casey, these are your brothers and sisters," she said, indicating the children. "This is Dylan, who is 16, Ella is 13, and little Aiden is 10. I glanced at them. They returned my gaze with puzzled looks, no doubt clueless about who I was or why their mother had brought them to a stranger's funeral. "I don't care," I stated firmly, meaning every word. I turned away and headed toward my car, hearing her call my name from behind, but I did not look back. She had made her choice 20 years ago, and now she had to live with it. The drive home was a haze filled with memories. After Mom left, Dad and I had to navigate everything on our own. It was difficult in the beginning. He was crushed, throwing himself into work constantly to avoid facing what she had done. I spent most of my days with Grandma Montgomery, Dad's mother, who moved in to help raise me. Yet my father, instead of succumbing to despair, channeled all his frustration and sorrow into his career. His business flourished because of the emotional energy he could not otherwise release. We moved into a splendid house in the finest neighborhood. Despite everything, he never remarried and never even considered it. I was never the type to settle down seriously, although many women tried their luck with him. He always assured me that I was sufficient, the family he needed. He supported me through college, where I studied business administration, and even bought me an apartment after I graduated. I landed a decent job at a marketing company, but honestly, I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. When Grandma passed away 2 years ago, she left me $200,000 along with her house. I ended up selling the house and making wise investments. I could easily live off the returns comfortably, yet I enjoyed having a sense of purpose in my life. Now, with Dad gone, I found myself alone. Well, not exactly alone. He had left everything to me. I discovered his will in his desk drawer the day after the funeral. The instructions were straightforward and unmistakable. Everything was to go to my daughter, Casey Montgomery. The business, the home, his cars, and every single investment without exception. Somehow, news about the will must have spread quickly, because 3 days later, my doorbell rang. It was her, my mother, standing there by herself this time. No husband, no children. She wore jeans and a sweater, nervously yet resolute. I opened the door but refused to let her come in right away. I asked, "What do you want?" She replied, "May I come in? I just need a few minutes to talk." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and invited her into my living room. She glanced around, taking in the elegant furniture, the sweeping city view through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the unique artwork decorating the walls. "This is a beautiful place," she remarked. I asked, "How did you find my address?" She answered, "I asked around. Some of your father's relatives shared it with me." All right. So now she was tracking me down through distant family ties I barely recognized. "What do you want?" I asked once again. Without waiting for an invitation, she sat down on my couch. "Casey, I know you inherited a large sum of money from your father and also from your grandmother." My heart sank. How on earth did she find out about Grandma's inheritance? "What is it that you want?" I inquired. "My point is that you are quite wealthy now, and I believe you should share some of that fortune with your family." I stared at her in disbelief. "My family?" "Yes," she answered. "With me and your brothers and sisters. Those 3 children you saw at the funeral, they are your half-siblings, Casey. They need assistance with school, college expenses, and basic living costs." I burst into laughter, unable to control myself. "Are you serious right now?" "Absolutely," she said. You are single. You have no children of your own to worry about. You have more money than you could ever dream of spending. Meanwhile, I am struggling to raise 3 kids on my husband's income." I sat facing her, trying to wrap my head around the sheer nerve of what I was hearing. "Let me get this straight. You abandoned me when I was 7 years old. You left me alone in an empty house for 2 days. You never called, never wrote, never sent a birthday card, never asked how I was for 2 decades. And now you expect me to give you money?" She showed a flicker of shame for about 2 seconds. Then she pulled herself together and became defensive. "I was young, Casey. I made mistakes. But I never loved your father. I simply could not live with him any longer. I knew he would provide for you. You were always his little princess. You left me because you wanted to run away with your boyfriend and did not want to be burdened with a child." Her face turned bright red. "That is not true, is it? Then why did you not fight for custody? Why did you not even appear in court?" She had no reply to that. I continued, "Now that your father is gone and you discovered I inherited his wealth, suddenly you remember you have a daughter. Suddenly you want a connection. But what you truly want is half of everything." "It is not about the money," she said, though her tone lacked sincerity. "Of course it is about the money. You never loved your father, but now you certainly love his fortune." She tried another tactic. "Casey, those kids are innocent in all this. They have done nothing wrong. Dylan wishes to attend university, but we cannot afford it. Ellen requires braces. Little Aiden struggles with learning difficulties and needs special tutoring. They are your brothers and sisters." "No, they are not. They are your children with the man you abandoned us for. They mean nothing to me. How can you be so heartless?" "Heartless? Want to talk about heartlessness? You left a 7-year-old child alone in the house for 2 days. You never reached out to that child for 20 years, and now you demand money. That is heartless." She stood up, growing irritated. "You have millions of dollars, Casey. More money than one person needs. I am seeking assistance with my children's education and their basic necessities. Then go ask their father. Consult your husband. Do not turn to the daughter you abandoned. Your father convinced you to be against me. My father never spoke ill of you to me. He didn't even need to because your behavior made everything clear. I could see she was becoming desperate at this point. Casey, please. I am pleading with you. Just consider it. These children are having a hard time, and you could support them with pocket change compared to what you have. Isn't it ironic? I said, as I moved toward the door. You keep insisting on how devoted a mother you are, and how concerned you are about your children's future. Yet 2 decades ago, you cared so little for your child that you left her frightened and alone for 2 full days. I was young and made mistakes. I opened the door and said, I want you to leave. Casey, please leave now. She began walking to the door but then turned back. This is not finished. Those children deserve so much more. Yes, they do. They deserve a mother who does not abandon them when times become difficult. Once she was gone, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my couch trembling. I could not believe the audacity of that woman. 20 years of nothing, and now she demanded half of everything their dad had earned. I thought about those 3 kids. I truly felt sorry for them. It was not their fault. Their mother was selfish, and their father clearly could not provide for them properly. But they were not my responsibility. I did not owe them anything. My father had worked tirelessly to create the life we enjoyed. After my mother left, he could have broken down completely. Instead, he transformed his pain into something positive for us. He earned every single penny he left behind. I had no intention of letting her manipulate me into giving it away. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived from a law firm I had never heard of. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a lawsuit. My mother was demanding half of my father's inheritance. I immediately contacted my lawyer. Malcolm Whitford had managed my father's will and several business agreements over the years. Since my father trusted him, I did as well. Casey, I am sorry to hear about this, Malcolm said when I showed him the documents. But don't stress too much. Your mother has no legal claim on your father's estate, though she is actually trying to sue me as well. I replied, yes, but just because she files a lawsuit does not mean she will win. Anyone can bring a case, but success is another matter. We will fight this. The lawsuit alleged my mother was entitled to half of the estate because she had been married to my father and helped raise me for 7 years. Her attorneys argued she contributed to the family and deserved compensation. It was absurd, yet we had to endure the entire legal process. The trial began 3 months later. I felt extremely anxious entering the courtroom. My mother was sitting across the room with her lawyer, a slim man in a costly suit who seemed very confident. She actually had the audacity to bring her husband along with their 3 children. They occupied the front row as if they were the injured parties in this situation. The children kept gazing at me with sorrowful eyes, as though I was the antagonist withholding what rightfully belonged to them. Their mother's attorney spoke first. Your Honor, my client was married to the deceased for 8 years. Throughout that period, she helped raise his daughter and made contributions to the household. She is entitled to a just portion of the marital property. Then he went on to say that their mother had attempted to keep in touch with me after the divorce, but the father had blocked these efforts. At that moment, I nearly lost control. The lawyer continued, she has 3 children who require financial assistance for schooling and everyday expenses. Meanwhile, the defendant has come into millions of dollars that she could never realistically spend during her lifetime. When it came to Malcolm's turn, he presented the undeniable facts. He had copies of divorce documents, custody agreements, and every relevant paper. Your Honor, the plaintiff deserted her 7-year-old daughter, leaving her alone in the house for 2 days while the father was away on business. She fled with her lover and never reached out to her daughter again. She never sought custody, never provided child support, nor showed any intention to be involved in this child's life for 20 years. Malcolm then produced bank statements, phone logs, and other proofs that showed the mother had never attempted to contact me. The plaintiff only emerged in the defendant's life after all those years. After discovering the details about the inheritance, this was never really about family ties or fairness. The issue was purely financial, nothing more. Then the judge began asking questions, which made the situation far more intriguing. "Mrs. Holloway," the judge addressed my mother, "why did you not reach out to your daughter when she turned 18 and was no longer under her father's guardianship?" My mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "I believed it was best for her to have a stable life with her father, but now you are here claiming that you wanted to have a relationship with her." "Yes, Your Honor. I always wished to be involved in her life." The judge pressed on. "Then why did you wait until after her father passed away and she inherited his fortune?" My mother's attorney quickly objected, saying, "Objection, Your Honor. The timing of my client's attempts to reconnect does not diminish her legal rights." The judge responded, "I will allow the question." My mother looked visibly uneasy. I learned of his death from relatives and thought this was the right moment to re-establish contact. The judge was skeptical. "Mrs. Holloway, why did you offer no financial aid to your daughter for more than 20 years, yet now expect her to support you financially?" My mother could not answer and just sat there opening and closing her mouth silently. The judge continued, "Why should the court grant you half of an estate that was accumulated entirely after you had abandoned your family?" At that point, my mother lost control. She stood up and started shouting, "She does not need all that money. She is alone, and nobody cares about her anyway." She was cold and selfish, just like her father had been. The entire courtroom fell silent. Even her own children seemed ashamed. After everything she had done, she was accusing me of being selfish and heartless. She claimed no one cared about me. The judge slammed his gavel and commanded, "Mrs. Holloway, sit down and compose yourself." Her attorney tried to soothe her, but the damage was already done. The judge reviewed all the evidence, glanced at my mother, then focused on me. "I find no legal grounds for the plaintiff's claim," he declared. He explained the defendant had rightfully inherited this estate through a valid will left by her father, who had complete legal authority over his possessions. The plaintiff had abandoned her parental duties 2 decades ago and made no attempt to be involved in her daughter's life until the inheritance came to light. He paused, then looked straight at my mother. "Moreover, I consider the defendant fortunate that such a mother deserted her, as she clearly deserved a better life than the plaintiff could have offered." My mother paled. Her lawyer attempted to object, but the judge immediately stopped him. "Case dismissed. All costs are awarded to the defendant." As we exited the courtroom, my mother shoved past her lawyer and confronted me angrily. "This is far from over," she snarled. "You will regret this." Malcolm stepped in firmly, saying, "Ma'am, please step away from my client." Her husband finally pulled her back, yet she kept staring at me with pure rage burning in her eyes. I assumed that would be the conclusion of the matter. I was mistaken. About 1 week later, she managed to obtain my phone number somehow and began calling me repeatedly. Then the texts started coming in. The messages were disturbing, accusing me of being cruel, claiming I had ruined her children's future and that divine punishment awaited me. I blocked her number, yet she acquired new phones and continued to call from various numbers. Then one afternoon, she arrived at my workplace. Dad's construction company had a modern office building in the city center, and she entered the lobby carrying all 3 children. "I want to see Casey," she shouted at the receptionist. "She is my daughter, and she has abandoned her own family." The poor receptionist appeared confused and uncertain. I heard the noise and emerged to understand what was happening. "You need to leave," I told my mother. "These children are hungry," she responded loudly. "You have millions, and they're going without food because of your selfishness." The kids looked deeply embarrassed. Employees nearby were watching the drama unfold. It was a complete spectacle. Security arrived and escorted her out, but the damage was already done. My staff began asking questions, and the whole situation felt humiliating beyond words. That was when I contacted Malcolm once again. We need to obtain a restraining order. I had hoped it would not escalate to that point, but I see now you were right. Malcolm submitted the paperwork for the restraining order the very next day. We had to appear in court again, but this time before a different judge, a woman likely in her 50s, who seemed as though she had witnessed it all. Your Honor, Malcolm began, my client is experiencing harassment and stalking from her biological mother, who has issued threats and caused disturbances at her workplace, he stated. He submitted all the proof, including insane text messages, phone records showing numerous calls from various numbers, and witness accounts from my office personnel describing the chaos the mother created. The mother's attorney attempted to claim she simply desired a relationship with her daughter, but the judge was not convinced. Mrs. Holloway, you lost your case against your daughter, the judge declared firmly. That should have concluded the matter. However, instead, she chose to continue harassing and intimidating her. She is my daughter, Mom shouted. I have the right to speak with her. The judge responded icily, you relinquished that right 2 decades ago when you abandoned her, and you absolutely have no right to stalk or threaten her. The court issued a restraining order preventing the mother from coming within 500 yards of me, my residence, or my workplace. She is forbidden from calling, texting, or contacting me through intermediaries. If you breach this order, Mrs. Holloway, you will face arrest and be charged with contempt of court. Do you understand? The mother merely stared daggers at me from across the courtroom. Her husband appeared ashamed, and the children looked bewildered and upset. I almost felt sympathy for them. Almost. That was half a year ago. Since then, I have had no contact from Mom. I have no idea if she remains in the same place or if the children are faring well. Frankly, I prefer not to know. People ask me, sometimes I feel guilty for not helping those children. They are innocent after all. People say they never chose to have a mother like that, and they are right. Those kids did nothing wrong. But neither did I. I never asked to be abandoned at the age of 7. I did not request for my mother to vanish from my life for 2 decades and then reappear demanding money. Dad worked tirelessly to create the life we shared. He could have broken down after she left, yet instead, he turned all his pain into something positive. Every penny he left me was earned through his hard work and sacrifice. I refused to give that to a woman who discarded me as if I were worthless. I often wonder what might have happened if Mom had handled things differently. If she had attended Dad's funeral and expressed regret. If she had asked to meet for coffee and discuss the past. If she had taken responsibility for what she did to me and sought to make things right. But none of that occurred. She only saw dollar signs and thought I owed her something. She believed she deserved Dad's money, even though she hated him enough to abandon his child. Sometimes I think about those kids, Dylan, Ella, and Aiden. I wish them well. I hope they receive the education they need and grow up to be kinder people than their mother. Yet that is not my burden. My duty is to honor Dad's memory and live the life he wanted for me. He left me everything out of love. I was trusted to handle things responsibly, and I have kept the construction business running smoothly. Nicholas is excelling as the CEO, and we are even entering new markets. I have made wise investments with the remaining funds. I travel freely, support causes close to my heart, and live comfortably without flaunting my wealth. Currently, I am dating someone named Colin, a high school teacher. He is unaware of my financial background, and I enjoy it that way. He appreciates me for who I am, not for the fortune I inherited. Dad would have admired Colin. He is honest and kind, the kind of man who builds rather than destroys. I think about Dad every day. Once a month, I visit his grave and share updates about the business, Colin, and my life. Even though I know he cannot hear me, It helps me feel connected to him. The house sometimes feels empty. It is large and meant to hold a family. Perhaps one day Colin and I will fill it with children of our own. Dad would have absolutely loved that. As for Mom, I hardly think about her anymore. She feels like a stranger. We share DNA, but that is where it ends. True family is more than genetics. True family shows up when you need them. True family does not abandon you and then demand repayment 2 decades later. Dad was my true family. Grandma was my true family. Maybe someday Colin will become my true family as well. The restraining order is still tucked in my desk drawer, just in case, but I doubt I will ever need it. I believe that things will be fine. My mom finally understood that I am not part of her retirement plan. I am no longer angry. I was upset for some time, but anger wears you down. Now, when I think about her, I just feel emptiness. She holds no significance in my life anymore. I have my dad's business to manage, a relationship to nurture, and a future to create. Those are the priorities that count. Sometimes people tell me I should forgive her, and that holding on to resentment harms your well-being. Yet I am not clinging to bitterness. I am simply defending myself from someone who showed she cannot be trusted. Forgiving someone and being foolish are not the same. I forgave her long ago for my own peace, but that does not mean I need to welcome her back into my life or share my father's inheritance with her. The reality is, some people only care about you when you possess something they desire. Others who call themselves family might just be strangers sharing your DNA. True family is made up of those who decide to stay, show up when it counts, and love you for who you are, not for what you can offer. Thank you for listening, and if this story resonated with you, please share it with those who might need a reminder that blood relation does not always equal family. Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe for more stories about discovering strength when those who are supposed to love us unconditionally only appear when there is something in it for them. Always remember that genuine family is about being present, not about convenient appearances.